probably to everyone's biggest question after I obviously went on a tirade about how crap our government is and also how bad the predictions are from the media is what's in store for property prices. Now, probably everyone can understand where I'm coming at from here, that it's actually probably going to continue to grow in the future. Now, look, again, I'm a big advocate, obviously, of people taking risk and people, bettering themselves. That's definitely something, and especially through property. And I'm not someone with tall poppy syndrome at all. I'm very pro people taking care of themselves, working very hard to get ahead in life. I'm very pro that. You'll never see me put someone down for doing very well in life unless they're doing it by obviously misleading the public like the media outlets. That's the only time I will not like it, or you're not acting the best face for the people. That's the politicians. But in general, look, we have very poor policy and very poor decisions, and it's actually going to force prices up further. And the reason for that is because, again, as I said, poor policy, and we just have a ridiculous undersupply of houses. Now, I think this is a very bad thing for the country because it's actually creating even more wealth divide, and I'll make a lot more money out of poor policy decision, but I actually don't want that to happen again, like I said earlier, because it's not good for our country. But these are the things I'm going to get into here. First of all, there's going to be continued growth until supply and demand is sorted. There's going to be continued government support for housing. And I don't mean support in a good way. I mean in a bad way. There's a good way and there's a bad way to do that. Third of all, there's going to be more immigration under the present government. Also, there'll be not enough support for the trade industry, and that will cause years of growth ahead. So, look, this is just a graph out of a scholarly article that I went to see. And you'll see here, this is basically supply and demand. You can see that obviously in COVID, we had, this is a projected, but it didn't actually happen because they always over project. That's what basically happens. But you can see here alone, what's kind of happening here is you can see we're in 2024 and there's already, they can show an undersupply there. And that's not even caught up to 2025. So that's really not going to happen until at least 26, 27. And it might not even happen depending on what our government actually does in terms of, making good policy decisions, actually backing some more supply to come into the market, helping the actual tradesmen out. But just alone on this graph, and this is granted with what they think they're going to do, and already I know they're well behind on their 1.2 million homes in 5 years, which they're never going to hit anyway, but people believe what they're told, which is unbelievable. But, if you take that actually out and what they'll actually do, that's probably a 2027, maybe even supply and demand balance. So, unfortunately, that's just the truth behind it. And then, to add to that, we've got continued support for housing. Now, I like to call out two things. So, look, there's two ways to go about it. One, I call it the carrot, and the other, I call it the stick. And a lot of people know what I'm talking about. So you can dangle the carrot in front of people, or you can dangle the stick in front of people. So, look, this isn't necessarily bad. This is just an extra subsidy for rent assistance. But I'm not necessarily a major fan of a rent subsidy because once you give it to people, they will almost never want you to take it away from them. That's the issue. So there's a book called The Toxic Chariot, and I recommend a lot of people read it. And basically, there's 5 stages of entitlement in that book. And basically, to give you a quick summary, what it basically says is once you give people something and they eventually become dependent on it, you become their enemy once you take it away from them. And that's what's going to happen here. So the thing I'm saying is, here, it's not necessarily they don't need to give a subsidy. I do understand why they're doing it, but it's not that they shouldn't be giving it. I'll tell you why they shouldn't be giving it. It's simply because if the government knew what they did in the first place, there would be no need for a rental subsidy at all. So there'll be no need to spend extra tax on a rental subsidy because of their own fuck up. That's the truth. There should be none because the government shouldn't have let it get that bad to this situation. It's as simple as that. So what they should have done is incentivize people to create more stock, which meant because there was an even supply and demand, rent wouldn't go up by as far, and therefore more people wouldn't need the subsidy. Therefore, we have more tax dollars to spend on education, more to spend on healthcare, more to spend on infrastructure, more to spend on defense, things like that. But they didn't do that, and they let it continue to go bad. So that's the reason We have things like that. So it's their stuff up, and this is taxpayer money that they're using to do this with. So, as I said, this is dangling the carrot now, but they should have dangled the carrot in the first place so they didn't have to then dangle the stick. Because I'll tell you right now, I know a lot of landlords, and they're perfectly good people. I'd say 99% of the people I know are not your slum landlords. They genuinely talk to the tenants. They're happy to, or property managers, they're happy to help fix a house and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, when you put your property out for rent, right, and you have 92 people coming through in 5 days or something like that, or applying in 5 days, because I know someone who had that, and you've got, let's say, 10 perfectly good tenants, all have a really dire situation, similar dire situation. One wants to pay you $500 a week, the other wants to pay you $580, and they've all got terrible situations. Who are you going to rent your property to? Seriously, it's not actually the landlord's fault in doing this. If there was an even supply and demand, there wouldn't be 92 applicants. There might be 10, and they might have an offer of $490. They might have one of $510, and the rental market won't go up by 16% in a year like it did in some areas over the course of some of the COVID years. So that's what they need to do in terms of housing. Furthermore, Labor is one of the worst party. Labor and the Greens, they just think we can all live in this, fairyland where everyone's equal. We can all play and run around in the park, and that's just the way it's going to be. But the fact of the matter is, it's just not the way the world works. Look, I can be told by my mum, I can be told by someone that you can be LeBron James. And I'd hate to tell you, but your mum lied to you. You can't be LeBron James. You're not born 6'8", fit, athletic, and 125 kilos. I'm, I think, 5'10" and about 80 kilos. You'd demolish me. It's just not a fact of the matter. So, look, if they want to believe in that utopia, they can. But I think I like to say about a lot of these parties is, don't watch what they say, watch what they do. And that's the way I kind of am in life. I don't watch what people say, I watch what they do. Because they said they would bring down migration numbers, but then we've had 659 increase in population. I think more than 500,000 arrivals in 1 year. That's basically adding nearly a Gold Coast to Australia every single year, and no one presses them about this. And it's obviously because all the media is completely, aside from probably SBS, left-wing bias. It's just a joke, seriously. They need to press them on this because, we don't even have enough homes for the people that live here, but then we're bringing in more people. And obviously, I think the average household size in Australia is 2.1 or 2.2. So if you do that over 659,000, what does that end out to be? We need 270,000 dwellings, and we're already short. And we're already short of our actual target as well. So that's just adding more supply. And it's just unbelievable, seriously. How these people even get a single vote, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I care more about my fellow Australian people than just pleasing, the screaming minority. And we need to think like that, because this is just ruining the country. And that's what, as I said, supply and demand and prices prices are a direct result of undersupply and over demand, right? That's why prices go up, and that's why when supply stays low and you've got excess demand, this is just adding more demand and fuel to the fire. So, for people that, you might not agree with all of my views, and that's okay. Look, I'm open. I'm a firm believer in free speech, and I welcome anyone who disagrees with me to comment below and tell me why you disagree in a obviously respectful and logical way. That's what I'd say. But really, I don't know anyone in the world who would say this is a good idea unless you fully back construction and you back the people of Australia to get it under wraps. But this is what they do. Then they disincentivize the trade industry. So they like to further tax the heavy vehicles. Now, for people that do not know, and I have heaps of tradie friends, a lot of my cousins are friends. I'm from a farming background as well. So look, heavy vehicles like farm machinery, things that transport trade goods, trade vehicles, they all get this extra tax, which is basically your heavy vehicle tax. Now, for me, don't get me wrong, I understand, I love the environment. I surf a couple of times a week. I spearfish. I love going out in nature. I'm from quite a coastal family as well. And look, I love taking care of the environment. It's a good thing, but really, first of all, you've got to, with a lot of this green power, you first of all got to produce it, which originally will first of all come from heavy diesel plants. It'll come from burning coal to actually create the electricity, to actually bend, should I say, the wind turbines, create them in shape and all that kind of thing. Then you've obviously got to have a vehicle as well to take it out, install it, and then if it fails, like I know one in Portland did recently, then you've got to replace it with, again, heavy machinery. So you've got to consider, obviously, all the, should I say, goods and actual, should I say, fossil fuels and everything that goes to actually just getting there in the first place. Then also the maintenance and the cost effectiveness of it too. So look, if for inner city people that only have to drive, a year, maybe they might drive, the furthest they'll drive is 200 Ks in one hit in a year. Yeah, it makes sense to get an electric vehicle, right? But does it really make sense to try to tax the hardworking Australians like this guy in the photo, just simply for doing the work that no one else wants to do, none of the hard work that no one else wants to do, that actually gets our country moving, feeds our people, puts the houses and roofs over people's heads? We should be incentivizing these people, seriously. Why don't we do this? Why don't we tariff the shit and take all our ports back, right? And then what we do is we tariff the overseas companies that sell us anything back, take all our ports back, sell them stuff overseas, then also create a sovereign wealth fund like Norway has, keep money in that in case of any emergency for every Australian person. But no, we don't do that. We tax the hardworking Australians who would help solve this crisis. So again, for all the greenies and all that kind of thing out there, again, if you wanna like comment and you disagree with me, do below. But tell me how mass migration and then doing stuff like this, which backs more of the housing industry in the long term, because that's the vehicles they use, how is that going to help solve the crisis? It's not. Like, I'm not saying that I don't agree with taking care of the environment or anything like that, but I'm saying we really need to think about how to help the actual hardworking Australians here. That's what we need to do. And what the present government and actually most recent governments have done does not back that at all. Look, really, the final question that everyone will ask me is, what's really going to happen in the future with the Australian house prices? Now, all of what I've just said backs my statement I'm about to make, and that's that we have years of growth ahead. And I'm not necessarily saying that about every market. There are markets that are softer than others. There are markets that are obviously stronger than others. But what you're going to see is a couple of years of growth. I estimate probably 2 to 3, something like that, maybe more. But that undersupply and of the market and excess demand is just that you cannot have. That is, again, as I said earlier in the video, that's the first thing you need for prices to correct themselves. You need it the opposite way, but very hard. Then you also need bad lending, usually, and you also need key industries to fail. And that's not, that the key industries are a bit weak, but our supply and demand is so far away from a crash or any correction in the future that we're going to have years of growth ahead. So in this actual segment here, I've actually just taken a screenshot of the Aussie Home Loans 25-year report, and here's your extrapolated median house values by 2043 per city. Now, I don't agree with this entirely. Sydney and Melbourne will be a bit lower because what they'll do is they'll start to integrate further exurbs or outskirts of Sydney. So I know Sydney alone now includes right up to Doyleson, and I think Nora Head, most of the Central Coast is a part of Sydney and the Blue Mountains. Melbourne already includes right out to basically like Frankston, Cranbourne, and also even Melton now too. So that's going to make the price go down. But that price will be right for the genuine inner 30K ring of Melbourne and Sydney, I can guarantee you. I think Brisbane will probably do a little bit better than that. Perth maybe a little bit better, I think too. Again, it probably depends on where they include in terms of the CBD. If Brisbane wants to include right down to Coomera, then it's obviously going to be low. And if they want to include Caboolture and even a bit further north towards, the bottom end of the sunny coast will be lower too. Same as Perth. If they want to start including, Two Rocks right up towards, I think they do include Two Rocks around here, but if they want to include right up towards Lancelin and even further past Mandurah towards, Bustleton, that'll also lower the price too. So it probably depends on that. But look, we've got years of growth ahead, and let's just be real here. Property prices are definitely going up. Obviously, it's going to be a good time for investors, and I do recommend people to work very hard and get into the market. But let's hope there's a bit of better policy, because I'm hopeful that hopefully we can get some governments with some guts, because I think there's going to be quite a revolt because of this. And I really actually want everyone to be living well. I don't think, like, obviously there's going to be always going to be richer people and poorer people, but if the overall economy can be good and we can have a strong middle class in Australia, which is what we're founded upon, I think it'd be a very good thing for the country. And let's back the people of our country. There's nothing wrong, for example, with someone investing in property and setting up their future. That puts less burden on our future pension funds and future needs for social welfare. So that money can be spent on our future children. That money can be spent on, even for the people who are quite green. Money can be spent on, let's say, like a hydro system. Money could also be spent on future infrastructure to maintain our waterways in times of floods or something like that. That money could be spent on, further improving our infrastructure and urban sprawl, making future city centres or something like that. So look, let's just hope for that. What I say to people is, don't have tall poppy syndrome. Support people who want to get ahead in life, because it's so important for the future of our country, because these are the people that are going to be obviously paying the taxes and backing the future of our country. Now, a thing a lot of people talk about is negative gearing, and I'll tell you right now, if people negative gearing, the average person pays, it's around 30 to 33% tax in Australia. So if you're negative gearing, you got to remember you only get your taxable percentage back of the actual amount you gear. So in saying that, what that means is 2/3 or around 66 to 70% of people actually forking out money to pay for housing. So if the government is giving like $1 billion negative gearing benefits to people, that means people are forking out $2 billion to the housing market, which is helping the government not pay that $2 billion. So for people that don't understand that, ask yourself where that extra, should I say, $2 billion, it's not $2 billion, it's more than that. I was just giving a hypothetical example, but double whatever benefit that they're giving and think of where the government's going to take that from. If you want more potholes in your road, you're going to get more if you don't want to back this policy, because the government cannot afford to do that. I'm telling you that right now. And people that don't understand how it works will not know that. So do I think house prices should be as high as they are? No, I don't think that at all. Do I want people to go homeless? Not at all. But we need to incentivize supply and demand. That'll get it under control. Incentivize people to invest in their future, and then therefore we'll have more money because we'll create more revenue, and that will create more ability for the government to actually help people out. So that's what we need to do. But as I said, there's years of growth ahead in the housing market. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you're looking for a buyer's agent in Australia's best performing suburbs, be sure to reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au. Thanks again, and welcome to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.